Hey everybody, I've got the first video of term 2 today, and we are starting term 2 with looking at statistics and probability. So throughout this term we're going to look at types of data, how to display that data, what is the best way to display different types of data, and also reading information from graphs and tables. Okay, so just to start with today, I'm going to go through a whole list of vocabulary words that you're going to need to know the meaning of and to be able to use correctly. I've written a list of these words in the Google Classroom on this post, so they're all there for you. But essentially it's the ones in red here in front of us. Okay, so I'm just going to read through this, and then I'm going to direct you to 2 videos on Cambridge Go that are really helpful practice with these words. Okay, so in statistics, a variable is something measured or observable that is expected to change over time or between the times that you observe it. And there's 2 different types of variables. So basically that's saying whatever you are measuring, collecting or classifying. Okay, because otherwise there would be not much point in measuring the data if it never changed. Okay, so there's 2 different types. So there is numerical data, which we can also call quantitative data, so quantity, the amount of something, and there is also categorical data. I'll get to categorical data in a moment. Okay, so numerical data has 2 subcategories as well. So it can be discrete numerical data or continuous numerical data. Okay, so discrete data, when we think of the word discrete, we think of something that is small in size and quite specific. Okay, so discrete numerical data that can only be a particular numerical value. So the number of TV sets in a house. So you could have none, 1, 2, or 3, but you couldn't have like 4.5 TVs because there is no way that we would classify a TV as a half. Okay, you could have the number of plants in your house. That would be 1, 2, 3, or like 20 million if you lived in my house. But you couldn't have half a plant. It's either a plant or it's not. Okay, so that's discrete numerical data. Continuous numerical data, when we think of the word continuous, we think of something like in a scale almost, or like a range, and that's what this is. So data that can take any range within a value. So great examples are heights, weights, and temperatures. So you could have someone that is 160 centimeters, for example, or 160.5, right up to 180 something, and so on. Okay, so with anything within a range, and lots of times we have decimals for those measurements. Okay, so numerical data can be discrete or continuous. Another type of data that we have is categorical data. So categorical meaning a category. So data that are not numbers. Data that is not numbers. Are not numbers. So the examples here that we have are things like colors, gender, brands of cars. Trying to think of another example. Types of material that houses are built from. Species of birds. Species of plants, all those sorts of things. So not numbers, but other things as well. The other type of categorical data, as an example that you could have, is when you have a questionnaire that has something like this. So it's got like a 1 to 5. 1 is dislike in this example, and then 5 or 3 in this example would be like. So when you fill out our well-being surveys at school, sometimes they have a scale of 1 to 5. So even though there are numbers in that, what it's actually measuring is stuff like dislike, neutral, like, or agree to strongly disagree, for example. So even though there are numbers, what we're actually measuring is your level of agreeance in that example. Okay, so that's still categorical. Okay, so data can be collected from 2 different, two different sources. So you might have come across this, these types of words in history studies. So we've got primary source and secondary source. Okay, when we're talking about data though, that means first-hand information for primary source collected from the original source by the person or organization needing the data. So an example of a primary source of data would be when the school has asked you to fill out the wellbeing survey. So that's primary source of information. The information's coming from you, it's collected by the school. That makes a little bit more sense when we talk now about secondary sources of data. They have been collected and published and possibly summarized by someone else before we use it. So it might be information that you search up online, or it could be something in a newspaper, or a textbook, for example. So a lot of the information that we'll be working with in our textbook, we will classify as secondary source because we haven't collected it. The people in the textbook have collected it and then summarized it or whatever. Okay, a few more words to go. So we have samples and populations. When an entire population, so all of a group of something, is surveyed, we call that a census. So we've also used the word census when we gather information as an Australian society, and the reason why we call it a census there is because all of Australian population is filling it out, or someone in your family is on your behalf. Okay, so when a subset, sub meaning part, set of a population is surveyed, we call that a sample. So samples are really useful because it saves us time sometimes by asking just 5 people within a group of a larger population. But we just have to be careful, obviously, if you're choosing a sample or you're looking at a sample of data, that it is representative of a larger population in order to make judgments about something. So for example, if I asked the class about their favorite sports, or to rate their favorite sports, for example, that would be a balanced representation of the class. If I asked only the people that played football, for example, what their favorite sport would be, and then expected that to represent the whole class, then that would be not a correct use of data. Okay, so census, everybody of a population, and sample, just a section of a population. Okay. The last word, I guess, in terms of data representation, and we use this word in science too, has a similar connotation, is the word observation. Okay, so when we cannot choose which members of the population to survey, and we can only record those visible to us, so the people that go out and post things online, for example, we call that an observation because we haven't specifically chosen a sample, and we haven't specifically done the whole population. It's just looking at the people that have inputted data into something voluntarily. Okay, so there's all the information to start on 8A. What I'm going to just quickly show you now is some videos on Cambridge Go that are really great to explain this topic. So I'm in the interactive textbook part 8A, collecting and classifying data. This is where I've got the words I just talked about now. And actually, if you hover over them, there's some handy definitions there that summarize it too. There's building understanding. We'll probably do that in class if we haven't already. Now, down here, I don't know if you guys realize that there are videos on Cambridge as well as my own videos. So if you just open these up, it'll give you an example of whatever topic they've listed here. So I'll just show you what the first one looks like. You just click on it. It's got some worked examples there, and then if you click on the actual little, whatever this thing is called, video icon, a video will pop up here.
In this example, we're going to be classifying variables. We're asked to classify the...
Okay, I won't play the whole thing for you. They're pretty short anyway, because it'll be clearer if you watch it yourself. But that's a really good resource that I'd like you to go and look at now. So there are 2 videos there, so I'll just go back to that. The first one is classifying variables, and then the next one is talking specifically about primary and secondary sources. So go to those videos now and watch them. It's easier to watch them there instead of me making 2 more videos from here.